My dear friend, I need you to stop right where you are. Not because something terrible is about to happen, not to frighten you, but because what I am about to say has been waiting to reach you for a very long time, and I need you to be still enough to actually receive it. You have been carrying something that almost no one around you can see. Not grief. Exactly. Not anger. Exactly. Something older than both of those. Something that sits in the body differently in the throat, in the chest, in the specific kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from trying for too long to be believed by people who had already decided not to believe you. You know what I am talking about. You have been telling the truth for a long time. You told it carefully. You told it plainly. You told it in the quiet moments when you found the courage to open your mouth and let the words come out. And you watched the face of the person you were telling it to, the person you trusted, the person you needed, and you saw the moment they chose not to believe you. Not because what you said wasn't real, because believing you would have cost them something. And they chose themselves instead. That moment, that specific moment when the truth came out of your mouth, and you watched someone you loved look straight at you and say, in whatever words they used, "I don't believe you." That moment did something to a person that is almost impossible to explain to anyone who has not lived it. It does not just hurt. It does not just disappoint. It reaches down into the place where your sense of reality lives, and it shakes it. It makes you question not just whether anyone will ever believe you, but whether the thing you experienced was real at all. This is what gaslighting does. This is what betrayal from a trusted person does. It does not just wound the heart. It weaponizes your own memory against you. And I am here to say, plainly and without hesitation, what you experienced was real. What you carried was real. The truth you told was true, and the damage done to you in the moments when the people who should have protected you chose instead to look away, that was real too. We are going to walk through this together, every step of it. And by the time we are done, something in you that has been bent under the weight of not being believed is going to stand back up. Stay with me. I want you to picture something with me. Not a vague image, a specific one, a family dinner. The kind where everyone is seated and the food is passed around and there is laughter at the edges of conversations, and someone is telling a story and someone else is checking their phone under the table. The ordinary choreography of a family that looks, from the outside, like it is working. And there is a person at that table. They have been awake for 3 days. Not because they could not sleep, because every time they closed their eyes, the weight of what they were carrying pressed down so hard that their body refused to rest. They have been awake for 3 days, and they are sitting at this table, and they are smiling. Not because they feel like smiling, because they have learned, over a long period of time and through a great deal of pain, that a smile is the fastest way to get through a moment without having to explain anything. They smile for the photo. You know the photo, someone holds up a phone and says everyone in, and they lean in and they smile. And the photo looks like evidence of a happy family, a happy life, a person who is doing fine. They wash the dishes afterward. They dry each one and put it away in the right place. And they say the right things to the right people on their way out the door. And they drive home alone. And in the car, in the silence after the performance of being okay, the question surfaces again. The one that has been surfacing for months, maybe years. The one they have asked out loud and been dismissed for asking. The one they have carried in the body as a constant low-grade pressure in the chest, a tightness in the throat, a specific kind of tiredness that is not about sleep. If I disappeared, would anyone at that table have noticed in time to do anything about it? They are not dramatic. They are not looking for attention. This is not a performance. This is what happens inside a person who has been asking for help for a long time and been told repeatedly by the people they trusted most that they did not actually need help, that what they were experiencing was not as serious as they thought, that they were sensitive or overreacting or making things up, that they were making things up. I need you to stay with that image for a moment. The dinner, the photo, the drive home, the question in the car, because I need you to understand something about how this kind of damage works. Something that most people never talk about because it is uncomfortable, and because acknowledging it forces us to look at the specific people in our lives who we have given the benefit of the doubt for far too long. Before I tell you who did this, I need you to understand the mechanism, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you cannot unsee it, the power it has had over you begins to break. Stay with me. We are going there together. Here is what you need to understand. The damage was not done all at once. Nobody does it all at once. If someone had come to this person on day one and shown them clearly, this is what I am going to do to you over the next several years, they would have walked away. Anyone would. The damage was done slowly. It was done in the accumulation of small moments. A raised eyebrow when they expressed pain. A sigh that communicated burden before a word was even spoken. A pattern of responses that began with "I understand" and ended consistently with "but maybe you are looking at this wrong," or "you always take things so hard," or "I think you need to consider that you might be remembering this differently." Gaslighting does not announce itself. It does not come in wearing a sign that says, "I am about to dismantle your relationship with your own reality." It comes in the form of love. It comes in the form of concern. It comes in the form of someone who seems to care so much about you that they are willing to disagree with your own account of your own experience. And the cruelest part, the part that makes this kind of damage so difficult to name, is that the person doing it often does not think of themselves as cruel. They think of themselves as reasonable. They think of themselves as the calm one in the room. They think genuinely that they are helping. They are not helping. They are protecting themselves. They are protecting a version of events that is easier to live with than the truth. And they are doing it at the expense of the person who trusted them enough to tell the truth in the first place. This is what happened to the soul at that dinner table. And I am about to tell you exactly who was sitting at that table with them. Brace yourself, because this is the part that is going to make you angry, and you are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to feel everything that this truth brings up in you, because what was done was real, and it mattered, and you were right to feel it. The person who did this was not a stranger. Let me say that again, because I need it to land completely. The person who did this, the person who heard the truth and chose not to believe it, who responded to pain with dismissal, who looked at someone they were supposed to protect and said, "You are making this up," was not someone who came from outside, was not someone who could be removed from the life and never thought about again. It was the one person on this earth who was supposed to be the safe place, not a friend who faded, not a colleague who let them down. The person who, by the specific nature of their role in this soul's life, held the most power to either protect or destroy. The person whose belief would have meant everything, whose disbelief therefore cost everything. In many of your stories, this person was a parent, the one who was supposed to hear a child's pain and respond with "I believe you," the one whose job, whose most fundamental job, was to stand between this soul and the world when the world was too much, who should have said, "I see what is happening to you, I believe you. We are going to deal with this together," who instead said, "You are overreacting. You are too sensitive. Stop being dramatic. You always do this," or in the words that cut the deepest, in the words that this soul replayed in the car driving home from that dinner, in the words that became the foundation of every lie they eventually believed about themselves. "I don't think that actually happened the way you remember it. I don't think that actually happened the way you remember it." Think about what those words do to a person. Think about what it means to carry and experience something that happened to you in your body, in your real life, and to take the enormous risk of giving it language and handing that language to the person who was supposed to be your protector. and to hear in response, "That is not real." It does not just hurt, it restructures something. It rewrites the internal document that says, "I can trust my own perception." It replaces that document with a question that will follow this soul into every room they enter for years. Am I imagining things? And here is what I need you to understand about why this happens, because it is not random, it is not without cause. This person, the parent, the guardian, the one who should have protected, chose not to believe because believing would have required them to act. Believing would have required them to take responsibility. Believing would have required them to look at themselves, at their choices, at the environment they created or allowed, and to say, "I failed. I did not protect this person. Something happened on my watch and I chose to look away, and now I am choosing to look away again because the alternative is too painful for me to face." So they made the other choice, the easier choice, the choice that kept their self-image intact. And they handed this soul the bill. They handed this soul a years-long bill for their own refusal to take responsibility. They made this soul carry the weight of their cowardice disguised as concern. They turned this soul's truth into evidence of instability. They took the most vulnerable offering a person can make: "I am telling you something that happened to me and I need you to believe me," and they handed it back as proof that something was wrong with the person who offered it. This is what was done. This is who did it. And if you are sitting somewhere right now with your chest tight and your eyes filling because this is not just a story you are listening to, if this is your story, if this is the dinner and the photo and the drive home and the question in the car, then I need you to do something right now. Type in the comments, "I know this pain," not for the algorithm, not as a ritual, as an act of acknowledgement. As the first time, or one of the few times, you have allowed those words to exist in a public space where someone might see them and know that they are not alone. I know this pain. Type it. We are just getting started. I want to talk about the person who made that choice, the one who chose their comfort over the truth, the one who looked at someone they were supposed to protect and said, "You are making this up," and then went on with their life. The one who is walking around right now possibly with no visible consequences, who attends dinners and appears in photos, and from the outside looks like someone who is doing fine. I want to talk about what is actually happening inside them and what is coming, because here is the thing about choosing to deny someone's truth for your own protection. It works for a while, in the short term, in the immediate aftermath of the choice. It feels like the right decision. The discomfort is avoided. The conversation is closed. The version of events that is more comfortable remains intact. And the person who was dismissed goes quiet, because what else is there to do when the one person who should have believed you has made it clear they will not? So the silence is interpreted as confirmation, as evidence that the truth was not as serious as it sounded, as proof that the choice to dismiss was correct. But it is not quiet inside, because there is something that does not cooperate with that version of events, something that is not polite about what it knows and does not stay silent, just because the decision has been made to ignore it. The conscience, the body's own record of what it has done and what it has failed to do. The specific, particular knowledge that lives in a person's chest in the hours between midnight and 4 in the morning, when the defenses are down and the justifications have run out and there is nothing left to hide behind. They know, not loudly, not in a way they would ever admit out loud, but in the way that sleep changes texture, in the way that certain conversations become things to avoid, in the way that the name of the person they dismissed lands differently in the room now, carries weight it did not used to carry, cannot be spoken or heard without something tightening somewhere inside. They will try to outrun it. Most of them do. They will stay busy. They will surround themselves with noise and activity and the opinions of people who do not know the full story. They will construct a narrative in which they were the reasonable ones, the ones who were trying to help, the ones who said the hard, true things that nobody else had the courage to say. But the body is not interested in that narrative. The body keeps accurate records, and over time, not dramatically, not in a single confrontation, but slowly, and then all at once the record comes due. Relationships begin to carry a weight that cannot be explained. The people around them begin to sense something that they cannot name but cannot ignore. Children grow up and leave, and the space they leave behind is not just physical. Friends drift in ways that feel inexplicable. The loneliness that settles in is specific. The loneliness of someone who has spent a long time performing a version of themselves that is not entirely real, and who has run out of the energy required to maintain the performance. And in those quiet moments, in the specific silence that descends when the noise goes away, the face of the person they dismissed comes back, the words come back. The moment when that soul found the courage to tell the truth and was told it was not true. That moment does not age. It does not fade. It does not cooperate with the story that was built around it. I am not telling you this to satisfy a desire for revenge. I am telling you this because you need to know that the truth you told did not disappear just because it was rejected. It has been sitting there in the conscience of the person who rejected it, collecting interest, waiting for a moment of reckoning that cannot be indefinitely postponed. Justice is not always loud. It is not always public. It is not always what we pictured when we imagined it. But it is real, and it moves on its own timeline without your intervention, without your anger, without you having to do anything except continue to be exactly who you are. The truth you told did not disappear. It waited. If you believe this, if you believe that what was done in the dark will be brought into the light, that the choice to dismiss someone's truth always costs something eventually, then type in the comments right now, their time is coming, not as a curse, as a declaration of faith in the justice that is already moving, that was always already moving. That does not require your hands to do its work. Their time is coming. Now I need to stop talking about them, because this story was never really about them. They are a chapter, an important one, a painful one that changed the shape of things for a long time, but they are not the point. You are the point. The soul who kept carrying the truth even after it was rejected is the point. The person who found a way to stay in the room even when the room was unbearable is the point. And that person is you. I want to ask you something. When did you decide that the truth you told was not worth defending? Was it after the second dismissal? The fifth? Was it when you noticed that the energy it cost you to keep insisting was greater than any response you were going to receive? Or was it earlier, before the words? In some quiet internal decision that you are not sure you even consciously made the decision that it was safer to stop expecting to be believed? Because here is what I want you to understand about that decision. It was not weakness. It was not failure. It was adaptation. It was a survival strategy developed by an intelligent, perceptive person who had learned through repeated experience that certain environments would not receive the truth, and that continuing to offer it was costing more than it was returning. The problem is that survival strategies have a way of outlasting the environments that produced them. You learn to be quiet about what you knew because the person who should have heard you chose not to, and that was the right response to that situation. In that room, with that person, with that particular combination of their limitations and their choices, and their need to protect themselves, silence was the most reasonable thing available to you. But you are not in that room anymore, or you are trying not to be, or you are in the process of leaving it. And the strategy that kept you safe inside that room, the quieting of the truth, the minimizing of your own perception, the checking and rechecking of your own reality against someone else's version, before allowing yourself to trust it, that strategy is following you into rooms where it does not belong, into relationships where the people would actually believe you if you told them, into conversations where the truth is welcome and has been waiting to be spoken, into the silence of your own interior, where the thing you know about yourself has been waiting for permission to be stated plainly and held without apology. You are not too sensitive, you were not overreacting. What you experienced was real. The truth you told was true. Your perception is reliable. Your instincts are sound. These are not affirmations. These are statements of fact that were withheld from you for a long time by someone who needed to withhold them for their own reasons. And I am giving them back to you now, not because I am performing comfort, but because they were always yours. They were taken from you without your consent, and they belong to you. The soul at that dinner table, the one who smiled for the photo, and washed the dishes and drove home, and asked the question in the car, that soul was not weak. They were carrying a weight that no one should carry alone. They were surviving something that most people will never have to survive. And the fact that they kept showing up to the dinner, to the photo, to the dishes, to the drive home is not evidence of someone who was falling apart. It is evidence of someone who had not yet found the moment when the burden could be set down. This is that moment. This is where the story turns. Not because something outside you changes first, but because something inside you decides, quietly and completely, that it is finished carrying the weight of someone else's refusal to acknowledge the truth. You are not responsible for their inability to face what happened. You are not responsible for their comfort. You are not responsible for maintaining a version of events that protects them from accountability. You are only responsible for your own life, for the truth you know, for the reality you live in, for the story that is still unfolding, the one that has your name on it, the one that is not finished. I want to leave you with something specific, not a vague promise, not the kind of encouragement that sounds good but evaporates when you go back to your ordinary life and the ordinary weight of it. Something specific, something you can hold. There will be a morning, not today, maybe not this week. Healing does not work on a schedule, and I am not going to insult what you have been through by suggesting that it does. But there will be a morning, and you cannot yet know which one it will be, where you are doing something completely ordinary. You are making coffee. The kind of morning where you do not have an agenda yet, where the day has not fully assembled itself, where you are standing in the kitchen in the particular silence of early before anyone else is awake. You are making coffee, and the light comes through the window at a certain angle. The specific kind of light that only happens in the early morning. The kind that is soft and unhurried, and falls on ordinary things and makes them look, for a moment, like they are exactly enough. And you will be standing there with the mug in your hands and the light on the counter and the ordinary quiet around you. And you will notice something missing. Not the weight of the grief that will have changed shape by then, become something you have learned to carry differently. Not the memory of what happened that will always be part of you. And that is okay, the memories are yours. What will be missing is the specific weight of not being believed. The constant low-grade pressure of carrying a truth that had been rejected, of living in the gap between what you knew and what the people around you were willing to acknowledge. That specific weight will not be there in that moment. And you will stand there in the morning light with the coffee in your hands, and something will move through you, not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet recognition, the kind that settles in rather than arrives with announcement, and you will realize, I made it through. I actually made it through. Not through the pain. You will have been living through the pain all along. That is not what this is. Through the disbelief, through the isolation of being the only person in the room who knew the truth and was not being believed, through the long, costly work of rebuilding your relationship with your own perception, after someone spent years trying to take it from you, you will have made it through all of that to a morning where the light comes through the window and you are okay. That morning is real. It is already out there waiting for you, already assembled and ready, in a future that does not care what the people who dismissed you chose to believe. It is waiting for you because you are still here, because you kept going when going was almost unbearable, because the truth you told was true and you never fully stopped knowing it, even in the moments when knowing it felt like its own kind of punishment. The person who did not believe you does not determine whether that morning comes. They never did. They had less power than they appeared to have, less power than they exercised, less power than you were led to believe. What they had was proximity and timing and your trust. What they did not have, what no one has, is the ability to cancel what is meant for your life that morning is coming. You are making it toward it right now. Every day that you keep going is a day closer. Every moment that you choose to stay in this conversation, in this truth, in the hard ongoing work of not abandoning yourself the way they abandoned you, is a step in that direction. You were telling the truth the whole time. And one morning soon, in the ordinary light of an ordinary day, you will stand in the evidence of your own survival and know it completely. If you walked this whole journey with me, if you stayed when it was uncomfortable, when the villain reveal landed in a place that was too close to home, when the specific scene of the dinner and the photo and the drive home felt less like a story and more like a memory, then I want you to do one thing before you go. Type in the comments, "I am still standing." Not because you feel invincible right now, not because the weight is already gone, because it is true, because you are still here, still in this conversation, still choosing to face the truth rather than scroll past it. Because staying when staying is hard is the most honest definition of strength that exists. I am still standing. Write it, mean it, and know that someone else is going to read your comment on a day when they need to see proof that a person can go through what you went through and still be here. Your survival is not only yours, it is evidence that someone else desperately needs. If these words reach something real in you, if they said a thing that has been waiting a long time to be said, subscribe to this channel, not as a spiritual transaction, because more conversations like this one are coming, and I do not want you to miss them. Turn on the notification bell and you will receive them as they arrive. You are not alone in this, you never were. I am glad you stayed.